You're listening to the Post-Apocalyptic Media Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to this 51st episode of the Post-Apocalyptic Media Podcast. I'm your host, Sean, senior editor at post-apocalypticmedia.com. And this time I have a guest. I have a very special guest, Tina. How you doing, Tina?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Now Tina works at the site. You've worked there for, what, like a year and a half or so, maybe longer?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And you're an accomplished author, right?
Thank you. I'll take it.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk. So in addition to the regular news and everything, we're going to do this episode talking about Tina's book, which I read. I just finished it a couple weeks ago, and I absolutely loved it. Spoiler alert. And and no, I thought it was cool. And what's funny about the book is, it's one of those things that I got the book because you work with me, and I said that would be interesting to read. So being kind of aware of the book originally was because of that, but I didn't enjoy the book because of that. I enjoyed the book because I think it's actually a really good book. And I have to be honest, I was 100% ready to be like if I didn't like it, I'd be like, well, thanks for the book. So, I mean, I bought the book. It's not like you gave me the book, but I'm just saying, like, thanks for the recommendation on your book. That's great. But I really did like it. I thought it was really cool. And so we'll talk about that in the second half of the podcast and kind of discuss, without getting into spoilers and stuff. We'll talk about it. So I'm excited about that. But what I wanted to do first before we get into the news is kind of talk about, like, what have we been doing, like what watching and stuff like that. And I'll go first. I'll just go first. So I don't usually talk about this too much. We used to do this when Derek and Stephanie were on the show, and we talk about that. But it's kind of weird when you're just by yourself and you're like, so Sean, what have you been watching? Oh, So I've been watching. I've been trying to do. I'll actually get into a lot this week because we're doing Thanksgiving break here in America, and so I'm actually not schooling the kids today, and so I was able to watch some stuff. So I caught up on Wheel of Time, which is Amazon Prime new show, based on the Robert Jordan books from many years ago. And I don't know, I never read the books, first of all, so I think it's interesting to note that this is coming from the point of view of someone who didn't really know what to expect coming in. I mean, of course I was aware of the books and kind of the premise a little bit. I had to look up the wiki page and kind of see, like, and I still don't know what's going on, even after reading that. But so the first 3 episodes are out, and on Friday, the 4th episode, every Friday there's going to be a new episode. So I caught up with the first 3. I'd say overall, I really enjoyed it. This isn't like an official review, but overall, I really enjoyed it. It's very confusing at first. I feel like it's kind of an inside joke to, Robert Jordan fans, where you're kind of like, you're watching it and you're like, well, okay, I guess I'll find out what that means later, and there's just a lot going on. And, I think it gets better. The first episode is just a lot of stuff. And then the second episode, you start kind of sorting through it in your mind. You're like, okay, that's this person. What I found though, and this is so basic of me to say this, but it's true. There's some very strange parallels to the Lord of the Rings. And I'm talking down to the scenes. Like, there are scenes that look like they're like when Arwen crosses the ford of Brunin, and it's like, it's like the same thing. And they go across the water with the horses and they turn back, and there's just a lot of shots that are very Lord of the Rings. And I don't know if that was on purpose, or I don't know.
I'm pretty sure, now don't quote me on this. This is from me, like, watching YouTube videos about it. I've only read the first book. I'm pretty sure he got a lot of inspiration from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I can
as
see
a
that.
lot of high fantasy does. So maybe they were trying to, like, pay an homage to that. I haven't watched the show though. I am.
I can see it.
I watch a lot of my shows with my partner, with my husband, and he is not a high fantasy fan. So if I want to watch that stuff, I watch it when he's not around. So
yeah,
I will end up watching it at some point. I'm just like, I can't convince him to watch anything.
Yeah.
So that has that kind of stuff.
I'm like that with horror movies. My wife won't watch horror movies, so I'm kind of like, secretly watching horror movies. But yeah, so I think now, okay, so aside from the shots, very similar shots and everything, other than that, it's not really like Lord of the Rings. But some people were calling it, the Game of Thrones, the modern Game of Thrones, which I don't see. I think it's much more high fantasy. There's really cool magic in it that you don't see in stuff like Game of Thrones. So I think if you are more, if you really like the magic part of fantasy, this definitely scratches that itch, which is great. But again, like I said, coming from it from a perspective of not knowing exactly what I'm getting myself into, it's it looks like I have a lot to learn still. I'm looking forward to watching the rest of it, definitely. So
I plan on watching it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And so you read the first book. I don't know where the show goes as far as which books they cover. I'm not sure at this point.
I wouldn't even be able to tell you. I read the book probably 10 years ago, and I can't remember anything.
Yeah.
I have like almost all of them, but because I read the first one, I was like, oh, there's like 27 of these, and I was like, I need to devote some time. And then I never devoted the time.
Yeah, you're like, is this my new life or not?
Yeah, it's like, this will take me how long to read all of them? And I should probably read them pretty close to each other so I don't forget anything. And it was like a commitment.
Yeah. Well, and then other than that, I watched a movie called The Settlers. Have you ever seen that? It came out last year.
No.
It's pretty good. It's mildly post-apocalyptic. These people land on Mars, and they establish a colony, and they're kind of they're the only people there. Well, they think they are, and then some guy comes along and takes over the colony, and it's kind of like a thriller, like a horror thriller.
You know what? I think I have seen that, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
now
thought
that you say that, I'm like, actually, no, I do remember. Actually, I remember watching something like that. So I must have watched it when it first came out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it came out last year.
Yeah.
I liked it. It didn't get very good reviews, but I thought it was pretty good. I don't know. Had a crazy
If it's the one you're talking about, I remember liking it.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't like loving it.
I don't want to give away too much, the entire, because it does have some surprises in it, but I thought it was pretty good. What else? I'm trying to think if there's anything else I watched. Oh, I did read the Why the Last Man comics, or at least the first one, the first book. It was free on Amazon Prime. They gave away, they want to get you into it, so you read the rest of them. But I'm so cheap. I'm just like, stop there. Like, I'm not going to buy the rest.
I actually read the comic a few years ago, but I stopped after the first one because I did not like the main character. I found him annoying.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
So I was like, I can't with this guy.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's like, why is he the last guy? He's the worst.
Yeah, it's funny because it's not. I've heard from a lot of people said that the TV show is different than the comic, and it was. I thought it was very different.
Oh yeah, okay. I should give it a shot. I was just like, oh, is that guy in it?
Yeah, the TV show, the guy isn't as much of a bumbling idiot as the.
Oh, good.
Yeah, not as much, but still there a little bit. But yeah, that's about it. How about you? Been up to anything?
I just finished watching Sweet Home, actually, and I was going to write a review on it.
Oh, nice.
That'll come out hopefully tomorrow. I'm being locked out of WordPress. But yeah, so we just watched that, and I really, really liked it. So we watched Squid Game, like most people did, a few, like back in October, and then Netflix kept recommending Sweet Home to us, and I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. It's got cool monsters in it, and it was way more post-apocalyptic. It has a whole lot of really fun like tropes. It's a bunch of like weird people trapped in an apartment building having to survive against like a post-apocalyptic landscape. It's really good, actually. I really enjoyed it. So I'll obviously be posting about that.
Yeah.
So if you haven't read it or haven't watched it, I recommend it. The dubbing is but I mean
yeah, it's dubbing.
It's dubbing.
Yeah.
Other than like a few parts where it kind of made like a sad scene kind of funny, it was fine.
Yeah.
The dubbing. So I usually like the subtitles, but
yeah,
I live with someone that doesn't like subtitles, so I have to suffer through the dubbing. It's a constant battle in our house. He's like, stop telling me to watch these movies from like Korea that have subtitles. I'm like, but I like them.
Yeah, it's I'll have to check that out. I completely, like you said, it just flew under my radar, and I never paid attention, but now I think I'll check it out.
Yeah, it doesn't look post-apocalyptic from like it looks more like a zombie movie kind of, but it's not. It's definitely got like all the stuff. It's got like cars at one point that they soup up like in Mad Max. It's got like a lot of really cool characters, and it's got some raiders. It's got like everything you could possibly want.
That's awesome.
And the production value is pretty good. The monsters are creepy, so
That's like the perfect formula right there for everything
it's great.
named. Cool. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get into the news. We have a couple little things. Like there's this movie coming out that's called, let's see, it has Chloë Grace Moretz in it. It's called Mother Android, like Mother/Android. It's coming out on, let's see, December 17th, so a little less than a month. And it looks pretty good. Like it looks like basically, so the idea is people have had androids around, and the androids have been helpers. You know, it actually reminds me a lot of Fallout 4. You know, the synths.
Ah, yeah, or like Sea of Rust maybe too.
Oh yeah, yeah. So the robots are helpers, and then they decide one day something happens, and they all turn against the humans. So they're trying to escape, and they're trying to get, and she's pregnant, so her and her boyfriend are trying to get to a safe place so the baby can be born, you know, without being killed. And so to get there, they have to go to Boston, and to get there, they have to go through this like danger zone of androids, and where there's no checkpoints or anything, and it's just a free for all. So it's, you know, high action, lots of crazy, creepy androids, according to the trailer. I mean, these things have the blue glowing eyes like synths and in Fallout.
Yeah, they look freaky.
Yeah, and they're just running at you. It's like it's basically a zombie movie,
so fast.
but with androids. Yeah, it looks really, really creepy, but I love it.
Like if Terminator ran fast.
Yes.
The T-1000. Like
yeah,
the
T-1000. Yeah.
With the creepy metal.
Yeah. It's those eyes, though. I had to put that scene in the picture for the article I wrote, where it just shows like a blurry image in the background, but you can just see those eyes. Oh, it's so creepy.
Ooh. You think they'd turn them off if they wanted to be stealthy, but maybe they don't realize they're doing it.
That's probably
robot. That's freaky. Actually, robots are so scary because their tensile strength is so strong. Like if they get a hold of you, you're dead. Basically. Oh yeah. And I think that's what's so creepy about them is that you really can't fight them. You can't taunt them or do anything to like.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think that's why they're so scary, because they're just like the ultimate predator when they decide to be, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of like with zombies. You know how to get rid of them. Like you shoot them in the head. And if everyone has as good of aim as Rick Grimes, you know, just headshot, then it's no worry, right? But androids, it's like, oh, it's a whole new ballgame. Yeah.
Yeah. Some bullets wouldn't even be able to like penetrate them. So you'd have to use a pretty big gun.
Yeah.
I saw in the trailer she fires a gun from like the back of a motorcycle or something, and I'm just like, it better be like, you know, a small gun. There's no way.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
I'm interested, because I find in movies a lot of the time, like pregnancy isn't addressed properly. I find like it's always like either like hyperbolic, or it's like not mentioned at all. And I really hope they like spend some time making it a bit more realistic. It's like a pet peeve of mine, just because I've been pregnant twice. So I'm like, it's not like that.
Yeah. It's funny how we do that, you know, with our own experiences. We're like, that's not true. What are they doing? Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, it might be true for someone else, but.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go on to this next little bit here. This is Resident Evil. Welcome to Raccoon City. Ooh. So this movie actually releases today, as the day we're recording this, which is Wednesday.
Oh. And I'm excited. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so I wrote an article about it saying, is it available on Netflix, Amazon, Hulu? But it's not. That's the spoiler there. It's just in theaters, and you know, we've been spoiled this last year and a half or so, where we think we're so used to not going to theaters and seeing things on demand at home, and it's been great for an introvert like me. You know, you don't have to go anywhere. You just So now, you know, these things are coming to theaters again, and it's kind of like, oh, I have to go outside and I have to go see this movie, or I have to wait. Babysitter. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this one, if you want to watch it at home, you have to wait a little while. I think it's usually about 45 days, you know, when movies come to video on demand. So yeah, and so you're a big fan of the Resident Evil series, right? Yeah.
I never played the first one, I will admit, because I didn't have a PS1. But Resident Evil 2 I started with. I like borrowed my cousin's one time, and I like was super hooked. And so I've played most of the games. My husband actually has played, I think, every single one multiple times, even the new ones that came out recently, like the small little. They have those like small little games. He's played those too, and so yeah, we're big fans in my house. I can't wait till my kids are old enough, but they're way too young now. But they're only 4. But like,
yeah, it's a little
another 8 years or so maybe. So
yeah. They'll probably be on like Resident Evil 23 by then or something.
Oh yeah.
So the premise of this one is it's kind of like a reboot where,
right,
you know, so they already did. 2002, I think, was the first movie with Mila
Jovovich, right?
Yeah. And so she's been in all 6 of the previous movies, and it was always, you know, a big hit. People love those movies. Well, now they're rebooting it, new stars. She's not in it. And they're kind of going back to the beginning. They're showing the origins of the Umbrella Corp, and they're showing, like, you know, how, because when that corporation left Raccoon City, it kind of left it in desolation and stuff. So they're showing why that happened and kind of the you know, beginnings there, which is really super interesting.
That's really cool, because the Mila ones never really addressed that. They were just kind of like, this is an evil corporation, and here's some weird monsters I found. And it was all about her mainly. I think it's really cool to see, like, it's almost like it's getting a bit more, not political, but like depth, giving a bit more depth, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. And kind of
I'm
fleshing out
excited.
that
I'm very
backstory.
excited.
Yeah.
It looks creepy too. Like they look, the lickers. I'm like, oh.
That's one thing that series has always been good at, is creepiness.
Yeah. I'll never forget, like I don't know how old I was, like 12 or something, and my cousin was playing the second one when the birds go through the window, and I would like scream my head off, and my mom was like, what are you doing? I'm like, nothing.
yeah. So it looks like, and the director even said he was trying to make this one even scarier than the other ones, and trying to like focus on that and focus on the backstory and everything. So it seems cool. It seems like even if you've seen all the other movies and you're kind of like, well, you know, I've seen them all, it's like this will go back and kind of explain stuff and be a little deeper. So seems interesting.
That sounds awesome. I'm super excited. I probably won't go to the theater. I think it's only in the States too, and I'm not in the States.
Oh yeah.
I'm in Canada. Actually, Resident Evil 2 was the movie was filmed in Toronto, which I always think is cool. So every time I'm near Toronto. Every time I go there, I'm like, oh look, it's the tower that she rappels down.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's actually kind of neat. Toronto's a big place for filming videos and movies and stuff. Silent Hill was filmed near my town. There was parts of Silent Hill filmed in Toronto, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and you know, I read an article about the Last of Us series filming in is it in Calgary that they're filming?
Yeah, in Alberta. Yeah. So that's pretty far from where I am. It's like, I don't know. I'm trying to make a comparison in the States. I guess for Texas is, I guess. Oh, someone's gonna correct me, but like, if like Texas is in line, then we're more like Ohio, kind of that's the distance. Like that's probably not accurate at all, but we're not. I can't drive to Calgary.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, I could. It would take me a day and a half.
Yeah. So, but I think what's interesting about the filming of that movie, you know, that's going on right now, Last of Us, is they said that they're actually recreating Jackson, Wyoming, in Calgary, or outside of Calgary, and because of basically has the same scenery. But Jackson, Wyoming is so freaking expensive that, you know, and like the cost of filming there and everything is so expensive. They're like, well, let's just do it, you know, over here in a different country.
So expensive?
I don't know.
There's like nobody nobody lives there.
It's a tourist trap. My wife and I actually went there in June for our anniversary, and it was so expensive. Like I'm talking $700-800 hotel rooms. Like it was crazy.
That's shocking to me because I've always wanted to go, and I'm like, oh, there's no one there. It'll be cheap. It's like going to like the really northern Ontario. I guess not.
No,
I guess because it's so beautiful there.
Yeah, it's a tourist trap. It's basically it's called Jackson Hole because it's like the only way to get into Yellowstone is to go through Jackson, and so you know everyone's kind of funneled through there. So it's a trap totally.
It's like that little town in front of the Grand Canyon if you go in like the southern entrance or whatever it is, or the eastern entrance. It's like everything's like $1 million. Like, yeah.
So you know it makes sense that they would film you know somewhere else in Canada. I guess that you know that would be cheaper than you know, but still have the same beautiful scenery. So very cool. All right, so we have another movie that's coming out soon December 17th, actually, the same as that other movie. It's called Last Words. And this one, it just hit my radar the other day. It has Nick Nolte in it, who is now 80 years old, which is crazy. They were talking in this article I was reading that he was just as energetic as he was when he was in his 30s and 40s. You know, it's crazy. So this movie is about tsunamis hit. The year is now 2086, and everything is pretty much destroyed. And there's this one guy who thinks he's the last survivor, and he's kind of walking around. He's an African refugee, and he's in Greece. They're going to Athens, Greece, and he doesn't know, you know, what's going on or anything. And he hears some kind of call, they say. I don't really know anything about that, but they say it's like a mysterious call that kind of draws him to Athens. It's almost like The Stand, you know, where they're all like called through their dreams to go to one place. So he gets there and he meets Nick Nolte and a bunch of other people, and they're talking about cinema. I mean, they're so old that they remember like pre-apocalypse. They remember movies and film and how this worked. So they're telling him about it.
So they're basically us in the 20s.
Exactly. It's like what we would be. Yeah. We're like, I remember websites.
Yeah, I remember pre-internet.
Yeah. So they teach him all about it, and he's so intrigued by it and about the whole idea of capturing things on film that he wants to be like the last filmmaker. So they make a camera for him, you know, they all make a camera together, and then he goes out and sets out to record, you know, put things on film. It's kind of a cool idea. It's also one of those things where it's like, well, of course a filmmaker made this film about film, you know.
Oh, is this the one that's similar to Lake Cinema Paradiso?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That sounds really interesting. I like artsy movies, so I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I was like, this sounds familiar. I'm like, where did I read about this?
Yeah. And so it's a cool idea. Like Cinema Paradiso was from the 80s, I think like 87, 88, something like that.
Yeah, I watched it a long time ago.
Yeah, so it's almost like, you know, the same type of thing. Yeah, it seems very cool though. Seems like a good idea for a movie. I don't know, like it's coming out on the 17th, and let's see, it's already in Europe, I guess, but it's coming out in the US and the rest of the world on December 17th. I don't know what that means exactly.
Yeah, in theaters, in a select few fancy theaters.
Yeah.
The artsy ones.
That's usually how that goes.
I had to go see The Road in like one of the only artsy theaters around because I didn't have it when it came out, like in regular theaters.
Yeah, I could see that.
Where I lived. I had to go to a fancy theater. A cinema.
Yeah, I could see that. All right, let's see. And then there's one other piece of news I wanted to talk about, and this is, I just wrote about this today. There's this new movie called Wormwood Apocalypse. Now, have you ever seen the original Wormwood? I think it was 2014. It's like a gory zombie movie. But basically what it is it's just, you know, it's all about the action. It's all about blowing heads up and stuff like that. It's not...
I think I did. It was on Netflix, right?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Okay, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I've watched pretty much every zombie movie, but some of them blend in together.
Yeah,
I remember.
Well, this one it's kind of made to not think about it. You know, it's like one of those where you just sit down and you're like, I don't want to think about anything. I just want to watch somebody blow zombies up. So this is the sequel, and they just released the trailer for it, and I think it looks great. I mean, it's kind of like Army of Darkness, you know, that.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's like fun, gory, just blowing stuff up and killing zombies. So that's what it looks like to me. It looks like a good time. I'm excited.
That sounds like fun to me.
Yeah,
I gotta check out the trailer now.
Yeah. It looks super cool. A lot of action, but it's an Australian movie, and it's already been selected for like the Sydney Film Festival and Brisbane International Film Festival, stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's gaining attention, you know, which is cool. And I think a lot of that's because it's a sequel, but it's not supposed to come out until February. And actually that's only in Australia. So we can't watch it.
We have some time.
Yeah. So before it comes to Netflix or Hulu or something like that, it'll probably be next year, middle next year probably. But
yeah.
Yeah. Looks cool.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. All right. That is all of our news that I had for us to talk about. We just whipped right through that. So now I want to talk about your book.
Oh, cool.
So
I'm just like blushing. I'm like, oh, every time people ask me, I'm like, oh.
So, I feel weird giving the synopsis of it, to the author, but please, correct me if I leave anything out, but
Sure.
so basically what it is, and here's what I got out of it, kind of my favorite, main points is it's post-apocalyptic. It's like 35 years after the apocalypse. And it's, so you have this main character, Delia, and she is, kind of like badass, and she loves guns. She's very, but what usually happens with these types of characters is she has a deeper, she has many layers, and she's much deeper. She's more sensitive than that. And, which we find out later. And so there's this man named Gennaro who they originally are about to kill each other. And then they kind of grow into traveling partners. And then from there, it goes a little deeper. And I really like the fact that it's a gritty world. It's talking about the grit of living in the apocalypse, but also there's a love story. And I don't think that's a spoiler.
No, I think it's pretty set up. It's very long. My dad actually was like, "Why did it take so long?" I'm like, "'Cause it's fun."
I think it needed to be. But yeah, I thought that was cool that there's like this love story. You don't really see that a lot, and I think maybe not everyone wants to see that, But I think that it was a good change, and it was a good. I don't want to say unexpected because it really wasn't. Right away, but I think it was a nice kind of, I don't know how to explain it. Like the level of the level of the kind of romance and stuff I thought it was perfect. It didn't turn into 50 Shades of Grey. It was like this nice.
I definitely didn't want it to be like a romance with like a post-apocalyptic setting. I was just like, what if we show, that people can still form these relationships and have that in their lives despite this kind of terrible setting that they're part of, like kind of like how our people are still people even if they're in a terrible situation. And I kind of wanted to show that it was like, you can still find love in the apocalypse.
Yeah exactly.
And redemption and whatever.
That's what I was trying to say. You should write a book about this. Oh wait, you did. No, it's I think it's perfect. It's like you said, so many of these types of things are talking about desolation and, hard ass dudes who will never find love. And so I think it was cool to have that aspect of it where, like you said, you can still find a relationship or love or whatever through all this, because people want that. People don't want to just kill each other all the time, So I think that was interesting.
And I wanted her to be, because a lot of the times, like, I read a lot of like the obviously post-apocalyptic fiction, and sometimes like a woman will show up like 3/4 of the way through, and she'll be like the kind of like the prize almost of the protagonist for like completing the mission, and they fall in love. But I'm like, they don't have a deep enough connection. Usually, I find it almost feels like stereotypical that this would happen. So like, I want to make it so it's a real story of people having a connection, not just a thing that you expect from the movie, like, oh yeah, they're going to get together. I was like, no, I want to show that they have a future past the story. It's not just if that makes any sense.
No, it does. I think that's a good point, because there are too many times where it's like, well, I'm the last man, you're the last woman, here we go. So and it's more than that, where they start out as enemies and they kind of grow together. So I think that's a cool aspect of it. Yeah, definitely.
Thanks.
So I don't know. I guess I want to know, like, where did you get your inspiration for this book? Like, let me know the process of how you got this.
Sure. So I started writing it. I had to like look through when people asked me. So I started writing it, I think, in like about 2010. So I played a lot of Fallout in my life, and so a lot of it comes from that world. And obviously, it's not like a copy of Fallout, but most post-apocalyptic stories have similar kind of scenes and tropes and stuff. But also, Book of Eli was a big inspiration. So I think actually Gennaro, he actually comes from that. Now that I think about it, so in that movie, the one with Gary Oldman and Mila Kunis. From like, I think 2009 2009 or something, there is a secondhand man to the bad guy, and I always wondered, I'm like, why are these dudes doing this? Like, what's their motivation for being, the secondhand man of this awful person? And that kind of spawned this idea. I'm like, what if I wrote a story about the secondhand man who leaves? Yeah. Who decides he doesn't want to be why is he in this position? Like, because we never really learn about them. They're always just like the hired help or like the goons, that they kind of are cannon fodder. And I'm like, no, I want to know about this person and how he came to be where he is. And so that's kind of where that came from. And then other like homages come from other stuff, like various post-apocalyptic movies and books and stuff. There's a little bit of nods to everything. Like there's mutants in it because that's a big trope that we see a lot. There's like a reference. There's a small bit of zombies because obviously there's a kind of a joke about vampires. I kind of was like bringing in all these different kind of aspects that I enjoyed from the genre. And because I self-published it, I could just put in whatever I wanted. Yeah. So that's basically kind of where the idea came from.
Cool. I like that. That is a good point. You see the main bad guy, but he always has a sidekick, and it's like, what's his thought? Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, like what's his deal?
Yeah. Now, so when you first set out to write it, did it turn out the way you originally wanted it to start out?
Yeah, I did want it to kind of be like almost like episodic, like each chapter kind of has a different thing to contend with, but I definitely didn't envision I'm trying to explain it, like so much to it, and I don't want to like spoil anything. The ending was actually a lot different. Like there's a twist at the end that actually my writing mentor suggested. Like she didn't suggest that specific twist, but she said, oh, you need to do something else with the ending. It can't just be this. You have to have something a little more interesting. And so that made me go back and rejig a few things in the story. Like the book was actually part of my grad certificate in creative writing. So I had an author, Canadian author, basically go through it and provide like a really deep developmental edit of it and suggest changes and cut things, add things like that. So that was one of the things I'm really thankful to her for, because I never would have thought of that on my own. It would have kind of felt like a very lackluster ending now that I think about it, without that kind of twist. I mean, you probably know what I'm talking about, but obviously spoil it.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, there were scenes that I had pictured in my head or had written down to include. Like the golf course scene was something I always wanted to have. The final kind of romance thing at the end was something I always wanted to have. Perth and Mort were always kind of there as side characters. Mort for sure. He's based on my dog Denny, who's a pug, and the book's actually dedicated to my husband and to Denny. Oh, nice. So, yeah, he's a tough little thing.
Yeah, it's funny. I found myself relating to Perth. I think being the kind of old guy but I liked his character because he brought in a lot of like pop culture stuff. He's like, you guys remember this? And they're like, what? No, because he's so much.
We don't even know what TVs are.
Yeah. He's so much older than them, and he was pre-apocalypse. So yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, I called him like a millennial in his 60s. That's kind of what I refer to him as, because I'm like, okay, like I'm an old millennial, so like I'm like 85. I'm like right on the edge. So I was like, what would I be like if I was an old person in an apocalypse? I'd probably be quoting stuff that, from 30 years ago.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so accurate. I love it. So I mean, you said you had this kind of mapped out. I mean, are you going to go from here? Is there going to be like a part 2 or what?
I don't know. So I might. I was starting to write a like a free kind of like chapter that was like set after, featuring 2 of the characters that come in later, Karn and Lily, kind of about their life, just like a short little snippet, but I haven't finished it yet. And I might write a sequel or maybe a prequel one day, but I'm not sure. I'd have to get like inspiration for it. Yeah. Like it would just have to come to me one day when I'm walking my dog, and I'd be like, actually, that would be really cool. And then it would have to like spawn. It takes me a few weeks or months sometimes to kind of formulate an idea before I start writing it, just to make sure it's all fleshed out. I can't just sit and start. I have to like brew on it for a while. Yeah. I'm also busy right now with my space opera trilogy, so when that's done, then maybe.
Yeah, why don't we talk about that? So what?
Sure.
Yeah, so because this was your first book, and I don't even think I named the book. It's called "What Branches Grow." People are listening, and they're like, "What is she talking about?" Yeah. Yeah. What branches grow? Yeah. So
from T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland.
Oh yeah, the title itself. Yeah. That's cool. So then you have, so that was your first book. And now what are you working on now? Or what did you just published one, right? Another one?
Yep, I just released Escaping First Contact, and that's like a space opera. So it's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy-ish, kind of meets some, I don't know, like basically like any kind of space opera you can think of. So it's a bunch of humans and aliens having to work together, even though they don't like each other, and they have to try to escape this massive derelict spaceship. Mm-hmm. And then it spawns from there into like a galactic war kind of story with books 2 and 3. So they're written, they're done. I just finished getting the edits back from my editor. So the second one's coming out in January and the third one's coming out in March.
Wow. That's awesome.
So yeah. Thanks.
So that's one that when you sat down, you said this is going to be a trilogy, right?
Yep. Okay. That one for sure. I sat down, I was like, this is going to be 3 parts because there's like a page thing. I don't want to have a 300,000 word one book.
Yeah.
Because no one will read it. If you have 3 little books, people are more likely to read it.
Yeah, it seems like the days of like The Stand, those are over. Nobody. I mean, people like the little chunks.
He can publish probably a 900-word book or 900-page book, but not me. Yeah. But yeah, also it was kind of fun because then I got to have 3 covers, and there's a cool spaceship on each cover, but it's like in a different position with like different things against it. It was really fun to work on that.
Awesome.
And it was fun because I got to give the characters a lot of depth and backstory and stuff because it spanned 3 books. So yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. What about I mean, is this just something that you think you will just continue forever? I mean, is it like you have other ideas for other books?
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is like my main hobby, I would say. And I mean, it costs money because you have to pay for an editor and you have to pay for the covers and everything. But I'm like, a lot of people drop like $3,000 on their golf clubs. So I'm like, I can drop, every few years, a little bit of money on my books. My next project that I have for sure is actually my husband and I are working together on this horror novel. Nice. So he is obsessed with horror. Nice. And I like watching horror. And so we were like, what if I write the story and you help me make it really scary? So it's about like a family being haunted by a ghost. My 4-year-old, so she was about 2.5 at the time, and she said something. She was like, "Oh, the Nona Dusa is following me." I'm like, "What the heck is that?" And then I know, right? Kids saying weird stuff. And so then I'm like, I kept asking her, I'm like, "Where's the Nona Dusa?" She's like, "She lives in the shed." I'm like, "What?
Oh man,
who is this? Like, what does she look like?" And she described this like creepy thing, and I'm like, oh. Then I was like, hey, I should write a story about this. And then my husband and I were talking on a long drive one time. We were like plotting it out. I'm like, this would be really fun. So I think I might start that next.
That sounds cool. Yeah, it sounds really cool.
Yeah, we'll see.
I love horror stuff. Like I think, growing up in the 80s, a lot of post-apocalyptic stuff there was a lot of horror, in general, but post-apocalyptic was always kind of mixed in with that, and so I think that's really cool. And I like the fact that you're doing so many different, you have like a normal kind of post-apocalyptic road book, and then you have the Space Odyssey and a trilogy, too. And now you have this, so that's cool. It's like a nice portfolio.
Yeah, I don't like to like stick with the same thing. I don't know. I like to branch out because I'm writing it as like a hobby, not like, trying to appeal to everybody. I can write what I want to write, and that's kind of nice. And that's kind of one of the nice things about self-publishing is you still should listen to your editor when they say this, this paragraph sucks, cut it out. But you do have more creative control, which is nice.
Yeah.
Or you could always make it big like Hugh Howey as well, with Wolf,
that's true. I think in the back of indie authors' heads, they're probably like, I don't really care if I do this, but it would be really cool.
I think 100%.
Yeah.
It would be like awesome if someone liked it, but it's And I mean, I'm up for criticism too. I've had some people say, "Oh, what branches grow certain things." I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, and I think that we probably have a lot of people who come to our site who are authors themselves. At least that's my theory, is we have a lot of people who are interested in, telling a story that's similar to, what we've been in this pandemic for so long, and a lot of people are kind of formulating stories while they're at home or working from home and things like that. So do you have any advice for someone who is looking to get into this?
Like to start writing?
Yeah.
I'd say like one of the things that, I started writing when I was really young. I was probably like 12 or 13. And what I first did was I read this fantasy book. I don't even know what it is now. And I didn't like the ending. So I like rewrote it. I'm like, I can write a new ending. And then that kind of spawned into like writing my own story. So I think a good way for people to start is to actually write fan fiction. So take a book that you really like and like write a side story about the characters, or make your own characters, or if you want, put yourself in the story, like whatever. And then that'll help you kind of learn how you write and how you like to write. And then once you feel comfortable kind of with words, with putting them out there, then you can actually try to write your own thing. I mean, some people don't do that. Some people just start right away, and that's fine. But if you aren't sure where to start or how to world build, take something you already know and just like practice with that. And I found that for me helped me kind of, get into writing.
Yeah.
Because I had like it's almost like I had a blueprint there to help me get started.
Yeah, that's super interesting. That's a good point. I guess I never thought about that, but that's...
Yeah, and people publish their fan fiction. I mean, what you mentioned it before, 50 Shades of Grey, that was a fan fiction of Twilight somehow. I have not read it. No offense to anyone who does, but not my genre.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. All right, well, I think that's... we'll probably start wrapping this show up, but I wanted to mention first, we have other stuff on the site that I wanted to talk about, besides just the news. We have tons of reviews. Stephanie's been doing reviews of Foundation, Walking Dead World Beyond, Fear the Walking Dead. There's an anime called Muv-Luv, Alternative, I think it's alternative episode. That I'm looking at her at the articles she's written, but so she watches these shows and writes these reviews on them. And they're getting tons of hits, especially the Walking Dead ones, because everyone is, kind of watching these spin-offs while the regular Walking Dead is, in hiatus until it comes back in whatever it's supposed to, like in February or something. So, if you're looking for reviews on all these latest shows, head to the site, post-apocalyptic.com. Stephanie's been killing it with these things. It's like every weekend, all these shows come out at once, and I don't know how she does it. She watches them all and writes it up in like Sundays, but it's very cool.
Yeah, she has, she's great.
Yeah. And then we have our social media, of course. We're doing, in addition to, the regular Facebook, Twitter, all that kind of stuff, we do have a TikTok, and it's run by me. So I'm, 46 and I'm doing a TikTok, so don't expect, the latest trends or anything like that. And then we have streaming too on our Twitch channel. And all this stuff is going to be linked in the show notes for this episode, but you can check out our Twitch channel where I stream. Lately, I've been streaming Fallen Earth. It's a MMO that came back recently, and I've just been loving it, just playing the heck out of it. I played it back when it came out, and so it's like nostalgia, going back to that game. So, but there are other games that I plan on streaming. I do plan on making like another run through Fallout 4. Although, man, when I think about that, sometimes I'm like, that is going to be going all the way back to the beginning. It's gonna be painful.
I always start it and I never get to the end. I never do.
Yeah, that's.
I just romance Hancock and then I get bored.
I can see that. Yeah, so it's so I hope to stream a lot more, but it's only post-apocalyptic games that I'll be streaming on there. So yeah, definitely a lot of fun. And I like to, when I do these streams, I'm kind of like inviting people to tell me, like, hey, what should I do here? What kind of choices should I make here? So the viewers actually get to participate a little bit, which is pretty fun.
Ooh, it's like choose your own adventure.
Yeah. Tell Sean what to do that's what that is.
Kill this guy or don't kill this guy.
Yeah. So we have fun with that. But yeah, check all that out. Again, like I said, I'll have links in the show notes for the show, and you can just go straight from there. But that is it for this episode. Tina, again, I want to thank you for coming on. This was really a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed your book, and I'm probably going to pick up the other books that you've written, the one you wrote, and then the rest of the trilogy when it comes out. But
thank you.
I appreciate you coming on.
You guys can find it on Amazon or Kobo or Google or any of the places.
Yeah.
But the space opera is only on Amazon.
So. Oh, okay. Cool.
Because it's on Kindle Unlimited for a while, so
okay.
It has to be only on Amazon.
That's cool. Okay. Yeah, definitely check that out. Anyone who's interested in, we didn't get into too many spoilers, but just trust me, it's a good book.
Oh, thank you. I'm blushing.
All right, so everyone, take care, and I hope you enjoy that. This is not a video. We're no longer doing video; it's just audio. So enjoy not seeing me talk. That's that's a bonus, extra bonus there. So yeah, join us next week. We'll be back with audio only, and as always, stay alive out there and always be ready for the big one. Thanks, everyone.